So to close out this course, I want to leave you with how to wrap things up, and that's through portfolio creation. Now, when we talk about the 3D industry, there's a couple different factors you're going to need to get a job. The first factor is your portfolio, and I want to emphasize the first factor. Notice I'm not saying your education, I'm not saying your work experience, your resume, who you know, anything like that. The first thing that is going to get you a job is your portfolio. This is a skill-driven field, meaning that you need to show you can do what you do. Now, the lead website for hosting portfolios is a website called ArtStation, and I have ArtStation pulled up here for vert mode. If you come here and click the ArtStation button, you can browse what ArtStation is, all the amazing artists on here and their work. Other things they have are going to be a learning channel, which is really great. It has tons of great articles. It has some good videos. It's kind of a mix there, but there's some good resources. It has a shop to buy and sell assets. You can find jobs here, and if you're a studio, you can post jobs. And this is somewhere where recruiters directly recruit from. So we're going to talk about setting up an ArtStation page today, some of the things you need to know about it, know for it, and then we're going to take you through the process in this course of uploading your first project to ArtStation, that project being the final project we did in this course. So the first thing to kick off with is, what is ArtStation? So what ArtStation is it's a leading online platform for artists in the gaming, animation, and visual effects industry, and it allows us to showcase our work and connect with industry professionals. It is somewhere where companies directly recruit from, directly post jobs to, and also other people recruit from there as well who are just looking for things like commissions. I've gotten a lot of work through ArtStation, so it is an amazing website. Now, a little bit of history about ArtStation. I believe it came about in around 2014. Ever since then, it's been the industry standard for portfolio hosting, portfolio creation for games and film. Prior to that, you had websites like DeviantArt. DeviantArt's kind of fallen off the radar. They've tried to revamp to be a little bit more like ArtStation. Other than that, what people would do is they had their own personal websites. And I actually had several personal websites over the years. And my goodness, were they a pain to maintain and update. So the nice thing about ArtStation is it's an artist-focused website. So it puts the artist first and tries to make it easy for us to edit our portfolio and maintain it quickly and in an affordable manner. As a matter of fact, the base ArtStation is free. You can purchase a Pro, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But at the base level, it is free, which is amazing. So in this lecture, we're going to explore the essential components of an impressive 3D portfolio and how to maximize your ArtStation project page. The first thing that I want to talk about is using your real name for your account. This is a mistake a lot of people make, and that's that they don't use their real name. They will use some sort of nickname or some name they're not known by. When you are creating a professional social media account like ArtStation or LinkedIn, you 100% want to use your real name unless you're going to be known by an alias, or in the case of vert mode, known by a company. Now, the reason why you want to use your real name is it establishes a professional online presence. You don't want to be using a nickname or gamer tag. You want to make sure it is you. Another factor is credibility, trust, and authenticity, right? When I'm dealing with a person, I know that it is genuine. Obviously, they're putting their reputation on the line because they're using their name. If I was, communicating with Boogie Whirl 2237, I have no idea who that is. That doesn't feel very trustworthy, doesn't feel very professional. So you want to make sure you're using your real name. Another factor is personal branding, right? You want to be known for your artwork. You want to make sure your artwork's associated with you and not an alias you're only known by in certain circles. Another factor is improved discoverability, and that's search engine optimization, or SEO. What that essentially means is you can be Googled. If I go ahead and Google my name, Andre Wall, you'll see a lot of Andre Walls come up. But in this particular instance, the first one that came up was actually my ArtStation. So you can see the first one is me. And if I click on that, that brings me to my page. But we also have Andre Wall credits. So this is someone who does music, and this is someone who does music. And then down here is my LinkedIn. So you can see that on the first page here, searching my name, it came up with my ArtStation. And we can see my work here. So using my real name, as long as someone knows who I am, they are able to find me. And you can see how that can really help with the search engine optimization. It nests everything under my name, makes it very easy to find. So what is the takeaway from this? When you set up your ArtStation page, make sure it is using your real name, okay? If you already have an ArtStation page and you have tons of followers and you're using an alias, that's not a problem. Go ahead and have fun using that alias. But for those of you just starting out, or maybe who have made one already and you want to make it more professional, I would highly consider making a new one using your actual name. Now, the next thing is to craft an effective About Me section. The About Me section is the section on the page where you get to tell a little bit about yourself. In this, you want to introduce yourself consciously and engagingly. You want to highlight your 3D pipeline skills, and you want to share goals, inspiration, and achievements. I'm not going to say mine's the best in the world, but if we go ahead and navigate back to my ArtStation page, we can navigate to the About Me section, and you can see the About Me section that I have crafted here. So this would be an example of kind of sharing my passions, sharing my background with individuals. So if they want to learn more about me, they would be able to do so. And I've made mine a little bit lengthy. I've been doing this for a while. I dip my hands in different things, be it education or games or doing commission work or film, all sorts of different things. So I have quite an extensive description back there. So this would be an example of something that might be more appropriate for you just starting out. Here's an example. Hi, I'm, and you could insert your name, a passionate 3D generalist exploring the entire production pipeline from modeling to texturing, rigging to animation, rendering to compositing, and even audio creation. I love bringing captivating worlds to life. Versatile and collaborative, I strive to deliver high-quality results, pushing creative boundaries to create visual, stunning, and emotionally engaging experience. Let's embark on this artistic adventure together. So something to note here is replace your name with your actual name. And don't use this. Never take what someone has written unless you had them specifically write it for you and use it. You would want to take this and modify it in various ways, but this is the base gist of what you might want to put in there. You, at this stage, aren't very specialized. You've dabbled in a lot of different things, but if you've completed this course, you have a very broad skill set. To give you an idea, this would be on the level of what you might be able to achieve at the end of an associate degree at some schools, and maybe even a bachelor's degree at some schools. So this is a high caliber level of skill. If you're able to do this on your own without following me in particular, to create your own videos, to create your own models, textures, rigs, animations, add in your own audio, do your own compositing, create a finished result, then you truly are a filmmaker and you have a broader skill set than many people who are actually working in the industry themselves, okay? So just be mindful of that. It is not nothing. If you've accomplished the projects in this course, you actually have a very high level of skill, and it's on par or surpassing many people who are in college right now for this. Now let's talk a bit about the content you want to have on your 3D portfolio. The first thing is you want to showcase your best work and skills. Not all, but best. So what that means is if you had some early stuff that you created, some of the models you might have created on your own that you thought were cool, unless they are perfect, you don't want them on here. You want to show your most recent and your best work. My portfolio is a pretty broad selection of what I have done, but it is tiny in comparison to the work I've done in my lifetime. So what I've done is I've cherry picked it to what I feel is the best work, and that is what you want to do as well. Now, the other thing is you want to think about your portfolio as living, meaning that you add and remove projects regularly. So there's a good chance that the screen grab I showed you, if you look up my name in the future, let's say you're taking this course a month from now or a year from now, my portfolio may look completely different. It may be in a different order. It may have more projects. It may have projects removed. There's all sorts of different things that may be going on there. So just be mindful. You want to show your best work, and you want to make sure that you curate your portfolio, getting rid of old stuff that isn't that great, adding in new stuff that is. Now, early on, you want to aim for a variety of projects until you specialize. So what does that mean? Well, the project we're doing is very varied. You created a character, you rigged it, you animated it, you rendered it. That is a lot of variety. A lot of the times you end up specializing. And if you go into ArtStation, you start viewing portfolios, you notice this person just creates 3D models. This person just creates illustrations. This person just creates humans. This person just creates creatures. So you do specialize in this industry generally. I haven't entirely. My focus is broadly the entire pipeline because I teach. But more narrowly, I focus on 3D modeling, and even more narrow than that, I focus on character modeling. So I do have a narrow area of specialization, but I kind of have a broad reach due to my background as an educator. Now, you also want to balance quantity and quality, prioritizing quality over quantity. So what does that mean? This is kind of a hard one early on. Early on, you want to get enough variety on there that you can start to curate your portfolio, because you might get your heart set on a particular project and rework it, rework it, and rework it until it's something you think is good. But that's usually not the best way to go. What I found in my experience is get a project to a point that is good for your skill level. You feel like you've achieved something, you really are kind of feeling like you're hitting your peak. And then move forward onto new projects, because those new projects are going to teach you new things. And then come back and revisit that work if you do want to improve it. But you do want to get some things up there, probably get through 3 or 5 projects to really get experience, to get traction, to get some failures under your belt before you go back and you revisit a single project. So you don't really want to get stuck. Okay. Now, what is quantity and quality? Having a lot of stuff is not impressive. Having a lot of quality stuff is. So hopefully that makes sense. Never prioritize quantity. You want to prioritize quality, but as you're starting out, you do want to have some variation and you want to go through several projects. That way you get experience. Now, let's talk about portfolios by discipline. I mentioned that you specialize, and we even took a look at different aspects of the 3D pipeline in this course. So you want to showcase abilities across the 3D pipeline and include specialized projects if applicable. So what are some things we could do to improve our portfolio or to expand upon it? Well, with something like the egg project, it would be a good idea to put together a little video of the egg rig, just kind of a screen recording showing how all the controls work, how the rig is constructed, how the various things move. That way you can be like, look, I know how to rig, right? In addition to that, you have the animation. You could include the walk cycle as a test animation. You could show your compositing process. So you can show all sorts of stuff with this project that shows a wide range of disciplines. So let's talk a bit about that. We have specializations by discipline. That's going to be the different points in the pipeline we looked at: modeling, texturing, rigging, animation, compositing. All of those are separate camps that are their own job title. So you might go for a 3D modeling job title. You might go for a texturing artist job title. You might go for a rigging job title. You might go for a character animator. Those are all separate disciplines. Now, an individual can be a multidiscipline individual, and working in games, which is the side I work in, if you're a 3D modeler, you're generally expected to do both modeling and rigging. If you work in the mobile industry like I do, you're also going to be expected to do modeling, texturing, and rigging, sometimes animation, right? So sometimes you have to do a bit of all of it. It just depends on the company and the industry. Now, you also have specializations within disciplines. So if we take a look at modeling, for example, you might just do character art, meaning you just model characters, or you might just do environments or vehicles or weapons. That's an area of extreme focus, and it's something to work towards, but not something you're going to be at right now. And I feel like a lot of the times you kind of get pushed into that in the industry, or perhaps it is your area of passion. If you're someone who's really into weapons, by all means, just go nuts creating weapons, but you can still take those weapons to the next level. You could still rig them. You could still animate them to show their functionality. Same with vehicles or any of the other aspects. So be mindful of that. So what's the takeaway from this? When you first start out, it's good to pick an area of focus. Where is your passion? Is it modeling? Is it texturing? Is it rigging? Is it animating? And focus on that, but branch out into the common field. So the common field for modeling is obviously texturing. those kind of go hand in hand. And then following that is something like rigging. So if you can put a basic rig on your thing, great. When it comes to animation, a lot of times animation and rigging go hand in hand. So building your own rigs and animating them. So there's these areas that kind of, mix and match. And then as you go further into your career, you can start to specialize and pick an area of focus within the discipline that you are working in. Now, I want to share some experience from my own side of things with you. You've taken this course, so you probably have an idea of my skill set. I know how to model, texture, rig, animate, render, light, all that stuff just fine. But if you look at my portfolio, you're just going to see modeling. That is pretty much the only thing I have on my portfolio is modeling, in particular characters. But I actually have tons of experience modeling environments, tons of experience modeling props. I just haven't put together enough portfolio projects to showcase that because I really have been focusing hard on characters. This has actually lost me quite a few job opportunities, or it's required me to go above and beyond in a job application to show I have my other skill sets. Recently, as of talking about this lecture, I had a job interview for a lead 3D artist position, and they requested examples of my rigging. And that's because I don't have a lot of rigs on my portfolio. And this isn't the first time this has come up. There's been other instances where I applied for character artist positions and they wanted to see examples of rigs or examples of animation. And I had nothing together. So one of the things you will hear quite often, especially if you go onto YouTube or other social medias, is to specialize. And I want to give you just a little bit of caution there. You do want to specialize, but you do want to showcase your other skill sets, because it opens up more opportunities to you. And I notice there's a trend of moving away from hyper specialization, especially for mobile games, into more broad specialization. So someone who does characters is also expected to do textures, is expected to rig, and in some cases expected to do basic animation. Now, the last thing is to provide context for each project. That is going to be in the description section. So mention what the project is. If you were trying to explore a particular thing like human anatomy, add that in the description. Or maybe it was a dive into the 3D pipeline, like what we did, add that into the description. So those are some things to keep in mind about the projects that you add to your portfolio. So one of the things you're going to want to do is maximize your ArtStation project page. And we're going to talk a bit about this, but you want to use a compelling cover image. That's going to be the image that acts as the thumbnail, and it's going to be what people click on. So you want to make sure that's interesting and it really is showcasing the best of the project. So that way people are compelled to click on it and see what's inside. You want to have a detailed project description. You don't want it to be super long. Usually about a paragraph to 2 paragraphs is ideal, but you want to give the audience a good idea of what this is and the purpose it served. You want to use appropriate tagging for discoverability. We'll go over that in that section, but basically making sure it's in the right categories and adding the right tags so when people search for it, they can find it. You want to showcase project stages. So the finished project is great. That is what you want to show. That is the finished product. But what employers are interested in and recruiters is the stages you took to get there. So adding things like character turntables that show the character, but also show things like the wireframe is ideal. That way you can show off your modeling skills. You can create a rig video that shows off the rig you made for it. You can show breakdowns of the various stages of compositing that you have for it. So those are all great things to add to it. The other thing you want to do is you want to engage with the ArtStation community. You want to make sure if someone comments on your video that you respond. You say thank you, or if it's a critical comment, you mention, hey, I'm just starting. I appreciate the feedback. I'll try and use that to improve my next one, right? You want to be kind about it. You don't want to get into fights. Also, if there's other artists you like the work of, don't be afraid to reach out and comment on their stuff. If you're stalking an artist, don't come off like a stalker. Not a good idea. But don't be afraid to participate, to give other artists feedback, to let them know their work's cool, or if it inspires you, that it inspires you. Get involved with the community, get your name known. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the pro account versus the regular account. There's some benefits to that. One of the ones is going to be increased visibility within the ArtStation community. You do get a priority when it comes to the search engine that is going to show pro accounts first. It also has a slight plus to search engine optimization, I notice. I feel like if you do have a pro account, you're more likely to be found if you Google your name. Other aspects are enhanced customization options. This is going to just open up more options for portfolios and layouts. You have access to analytics, so you can view how your portfolio is doing, how your projects are doing in terms of visibility, or how your store is doing. There's other advanced features like larger upload sizes, so you can upload larger files. You get access to a personal website with more customization. My personal take is it's not needed. You absolutely can get by with a free ArtStation account and you can find work. But as full disclosure, I do have a pro account on my personal account. I bought that back in the day when it was a bit cheaper than it is now, before Unreal bought it. The other reason I had it is prior to that, I had to pay for a website anyway. So this kind of shifted to be my website budget. So I just kind of stuck with it. I also have some projects on there that are pretty large. So it was a motivating factor to pay a little extra. So some additional tips and best practices: maintain consistent quality and style. Now, what do I mean by style? If you go through and you look at various artists on ArtStation, you will notice a lot of them have the exact same style in every last single one of their images. If that is you, great. I will speak from a personal perspective. That is not me, and it's actually worked out in my favor in many cases. If you are too stylized, it can hurt you because they are going to be looking for that particular style to hire you, right? That is the only time you're going to get hired. If you have a little bit more diverse style, you can do some realistic, you can do some stylized, then you will have a broader market to be in. But I do want to emphasize consistent quality. And in some ways, style could be themes. If you're doing a lot of children's stuff, for example, you want to work at, Disney Kids or something, it wouldn't make much sense to all of a sudden do very adult things or very horror or gore oriented. So keep that in mind. Mine is very middle ground. It's very whimsical, fantasy leaning stuff. Somewhat vanilla, I would say, but yeah, it's still within the appropriate style, the appropriate theme, if that makes sense. So just be mindful of that. If you're trying to work for Disney Kids, maybe make it look like kids stuff in terms of style. Make sure it's high quality. And that's what we're getting at there with style. Now, another aspect is to regularly update your portfolio. And this is one of the things that in some ways breaks my heart as a teacher. I've had a lot of students over the years and I follow them on ArtStation. And so many of their channels are just silent. I know they've given up. They're no longer trying anymore. They're not uploading at all. And it's really unfortunate, especially for those who are getting traction and they were making some cool stuff. So I encourage you to keep going. Even if you don't go down the path of doing this professional, keep it as a hobby and update your portfolio. Share your work with the world, share your ideas. The world needs them. Engage with the ArtStation community. I already talked a bit about that, so I'll kind of leave that there. But, the more exposure you get, the more people come to your page. It's a good result. Also, leverage social media integration. You can integrate your other social platforms, be it Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. You can actually link all those up to ArtStation and you can share your work directly from ArtStation, which is an amazing tool. I can't emphasize how nice that is. So whenever you post a project, you can send it out to all these channels and cast the widest net with search engine optimization. So in conclusion, ArtStation is a powerful platform for showcasing 3D portfolios. Use your real name, craft an effective about me, select appropriate content, and optimize your project page. That is the key to success. And consider upgrading to a pro account for enhanced features if you plan to go professional in the future, but I don't suggest doing that now until you're ready. Okay, so that is a base rundown of ArtStation, some information on 3D portfolios to get you started. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at setting up some basic assets for our page. We're going to set up some turntables that we can upload in addition to our project, and we'll go through the process of creating a project page for our ArtStation account. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started with that, so we can get our first project up and on ArtStation.